The UN with the EU, as we speak, is telling Europe that they are bringing in the United Nations. The EU is bringing in the United Nations to establish, quote, refugee centers. Those are invasion centers. And the EU is now creating a navy to block Italy from blocking George Soros chartered ships coming in out of Africa daily with thousands. Well, guess what? That just made Italy start to vote to leave the EU. Oh, but here's the problem. There's a permanent bureaucracy. And just as Italy never voted to enter the unelected EU, and just as the UK never voted to do it, even though they voted for Brexit 2 years ago, Theresa May, and that's coming up, a Paul Joseph Watson report at the bottom of the hour, tried to sign a deal unilaterally, putting them back in the EU. George Herbert Walker Bush in 1992 signed us on to that thing, put our schools, our immigration program, our land use, everything under the UN. And people would say, oh, the crazy conspiracy theorists, they say we're under the UN. Because we were. Remember what Trump did last year? He said the UN no longer runs our refugee program. We're going to decide who comes in via ICE and via the Constitution. And I'm recapturing the power the president has under the Constitution. And, of course, the Supreme Court unanimously, years later, said he was right. Because the president has that power. It's in the Constitution. A 5-year-old could read that and understand it. How had it been transferred to the UN? The UN would say who can come in. The UN would vet the people. And, of course, they weren't vetting them. Who runs the refugee program in Europe? The UN. If an international unelected body can tell you who you take in and how your borders are operating, you are under global government. And they will use those third world populations as weapons. So I bring that up to remind folks that the UN with the EU, as we speak, is telling Europe that they are bringing in the United Nations. The EU is bringing in the United Nations to establish, quote, refugee centers. Those are invasion centers. And the EU is now creating a navy to block Italy from blocking George Soros chartered ships coming in out of Africa daily with thousands. Well, guess what? That just made Italy start to vote to leave the EU. Oh, but here's the problem. There's a permanent bureaucracy. And just as Italy never voted to enter the unelected EU, and just as the UK never voted to do it, even though they voted for Brexit 2 years ago, Theresa May, and that's coming up, a Paul Joseph Watson report at the bottom of the hour, tried to sign a deal unilaterally, putting them back in the EU. But see, people say, well, if we vote to leave or we vote to get out of these criminal programs, why they just keep coming back. But then people are awake, and instead of denying we're under the UN and denying we're under world government, when you get a real president or you get a real party like UKIP and you get real movements in Europe pointing out that no one ever voted to enter this and the EU bureaucracy is permanent and the parliament is ceremonial, and then the EU bureaucrats, all 100 and something thousand of them, voted to give themselves diplomatic immunity a decade ago and tax exemption from the EU-wide raft of taxes like VAT and others. I mean, you can't float that and get away with it. What have I said thousands of times? If you expose the authoritarian nature of the global government, EU, UN, IMF, World Bank, Global Combine, set up by the Rockefellers just 70 years ago, if you look at it, it's totally flagrantly illegal. It's flagrantly tyrannical. It's just naked. It's prima facie. On its face, it is total corporate world government by stealth. And you ask, well, how do we defeat that? Because they've got all the money. They swindled it all, of course. And every tech owner, like Bezos and all of them, Cook, all of them, worth hundreds of billions apiece, control trillions, are the most ruthless monsters with slave factories and forced abortions and the daycare at Foxconn in China. People chain their kids up and they crap on the street. I'm not kidding. Look it up. No environmental standards, no nothing. And then they put more standards on us than anybody else so that we can't operate. And Trump's like, we're not doing this anymore. And here's the other breaking news. The Hill is reporting lawmakers target Chinese security companies over spy fears. Congress is now investigating the fact that most major Chinese companies are run by members of Chinese intelligence, that our major universities have openly been taken over by them, that they've done the Office of Personnel Management hack, that Obama gave them all the codes. The realization that we've been totally infiltrated by the Red Chinese military, and that they brag about it, and that they have put bases all over the world under the guise of factories and mines, and that they are intending to cut the U.S. off economically and militarily, and that our own so-called elites 100% took China from when they didn't have running water in 99% of the country, and people wiped their rear ends with their hands, and let Mao kill 80-something million people to get them in line, take them in, line them up as slaves, and then total Western investment to leverage out the planet. China was wood-burning stoves and no toilet paper 60 years ago. Now it's got more roads, more industry than the United States has. We have been totally rooked, screwed over, absolutely, militarily, through economics, destroyed. Look at the headline right here. It's on drudgereport.com. It's also up on infowars.com. And it deals with new record trade deficit with China. Trump is just trying to put a tourniquet on our leg that's been chopped off at the knee. For 50 years, the blood's been spraying out, and finally it was just kind of barely coming out. Really almost no need for a tourniquet, except we're doing blood transfusions right now. That's what Trump's doing. He's got the country off life support, blood transfusions, trying to get us to eat our first meal, trying to get some color back in our skin, and trying to get us up and positive and realizing we're in a fight. Because they use our open, free society, traitors in our own government, multinational banks, to bring the United States down at the end of World War II. They said the U.S. dominates the planet. It's got half the wealth. It's got everything. It's promoting freedom worldwide. We can't have that. Let's promote a form of corporate communism, and let's prop China up in a big master plan to do it. And so all of you Antifa people already are Maoist. Go to their meetings. They know it. All you Democrats, though, that hate Trump and hate America and hate Infowars.com and hate Newswars.com, you're just complete fools. All we're trying to do is go back to what works and what's successful and what's honorable. We're going to have the latest on the new Supreme Court nominee, Brett Kavanaugh, Trump's pardon, so much more coming up. The left panicking and freaking out and rioting and attacking people all over the place, foaming at the mouth viciously, just saying they're going to surround the Capitol and stop Kavanaugh being approved. I mean, it's an amazing time. But America is fighting back for its life and starting to win, praise God.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
It is a big idea, a new world order, a world in which there is the very real prospect of a new world order.
After 1989, President Bush said, and it's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order.
There is a chance for the President of the United States to use this disaster to carry out what his father, a phrase his father used, I think, only once, and hasn't been used since, and that is a new world order.
So that the problem of the Bush presidency will be the emergence of a new international order.
Within the next 4 years, we will see the emergence of a new international order.
The beginning of a new international order.
The pieces are in flux. Soon they will settle again. Before they do, let us reorder this world around us.
I think its task will be to develop an overall strategy for America in this period when really a new world order can be created. It's a great opportunity. It isn't just a crisis.
It's about the future of Europe and a new world order.
There's a need for a new world order, but it has different characteristics in different parts of the world.
But today, with Asia already outproducing Europe, India and China are clearly becoming part of our new order.
We are now facing a common challenge. And the challenge is how to build a world order for the first time in history on a global basis.
So, in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, a new world is emerging. It is a new world order with significantly different and radically new challenges.
The affirmative task we have now is to actually create a new world order.
Good evening, everybody. President Obama and British Prime Minister Gordon today calling for a new world order to tackle our global economic crisis.
And the president outlined his vision of a new world order in which the U.S. would participate fully.
We've got to give them a stake in creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would like to see.
So I see a world order in the future with a multipolar world order.
I think a new world order is emerging, and with it the foundations of a new and progressive era of international cooperation.
But in a globalized economy, we are going to have to take global responsibilities, and there is going to have to be some semblance of global governance.
Never before has a new world order had to be assembled from so many different perceptions or on so global a scale. Nor has any previous order had to combine the attributes of the historic balance of power system with global democratic opinion and the exploding technology of the contemporary period.
And I strongly believe India will be a central actor in the new world order.
There also exists an extraordinary opportunity to form for the first time in history a truly global society.
2009 is also the first year of global governance with the establishment of the G20 in the middle of the financial crisis. The climate conference in Copenhagen is another step towards the global management of our planet.
New World Order is the headline in the Globe and Mail in Canada.
Is this global governance at last? Is it one world, the central bankers in charge? But aren't we all just living and dying for what the central banks do?
Of course we are. We are absolutely slaves to central banks.
Maximize your potential and take your body back with Super Male Vitality. We're breaking the conditioning and fighting back against the globalists' war on male vitality. Our ultimate non-GMO formula is sourced from powerful organic herbs that have been gathered from around the world and then concentrated for maximum potency. Super Male Vitality was developed to activate your body's natural processes instead of using synthetic chemicals. InfoWars Life wants to bring you the highest quality products. Our unique combination of ingredients is designed to assist the body in regulating proper balance and creating superior vitality in males. Support your body and mind and take yourself to the next level. Boost your vitality and energize your life. Take control of your body. Grab a bottle of Super Male Vitality today at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com.